Nando v Movies. You know him, you love him. He's back again doing another entry in what I'm calling his Scene Selection series, where he encourages fellow YouTubers to make video essays about a specific scene using a specific theme. This time, he's chosen music. I've been a fan of these types of videos for a while now, but this is my first time making a video essay of my own. So, here goes nothing. Television is full of iconic intros. From The Twilight Zone,
there is a fifth dimension, beyond that which is known to man,
to Lost. There are no shortage of creative, inventive, and unique introductions to a television show. However, there is none so iconic as this. Game of Thrones, even from its premiere in April of 2011, was a show unlike any that had come before it. The show, on its surface, is an adaptation of one of the best-selling fantasy novel series of all time, the A Song of Ice and Fire books written by George R.R. Martin. A story set in a fictional medieval world that mostly resembles our world, with the slightest hints of magic thrown in here or there. Oh, and dragons. Speaking of magic, let's hear that music one more time. Let's be honest, 9 times out of 10, we're skipping the intro to most shows if we have the option. But this? I can listen to this on repeat all day if I could. And that's not to mention the fantastic animation that is played behind the music, and it has come to embody the show itself. It's more than just a theme to a television show. This song has become synonymous with Game of Thrones, placing it with the likes of Star Wars and the Avengers franchises, where in just the first few opening notes, you instantly recognize what series the song is from, and you are flooded with the very best memories you have. And it knows this. The intro lasts about 1 minute and 40 seconds, and for nearly the entire first minute, you only hear those notes from the opening on repeat. For more than half of that time, the song is being led by a lone cello. Before being joined by a larger array of orchestral instruments. It's not afraid to repeat the same pattern over and over, only adjusting it slightly each go-around, almost as if it knows it will be one of the most iconic scores ever written. Behind it, a driving percussion epic in its own right. Like the beating drums of war, pushing the theme forward. It knows it's preparing the viewer to experience a truly epic story. And that's exactly what Game of Thrones is. The epic tale of literal powerhouses fighting it out on the world stage. It's not just the story of Jon Snow or Daenerys Targaryen or the White Walkers. It's not just watching Tyrion outsmart nearly everyone he comes across, or Robb leading a campaign against the Lannisters to avenge his father's death. It's all of their stories. It's the story of every character we come to know and love, or hate. Week in and week out, we watched as these incredibly complex, masterfully written characters deal with everything else everyone was doing.
Chaos isn't a pit. Chaos is a ladder.
Game of Thrones was complex, it was detailed, it was interesting, it was captivating. We couldn't get enough of watching our favorite characters encounter new challenges every week and watching how they'd react. Would they triumph?
You killed her children!
Would they fail? We tuned in each week over and over again to see what would happen. And welcoming us back to the world of Westeros every week was this song. There's just something about hearing this song that reminds you of the best of Thrones, and all of its accomplishments as a groundbreaking series, something the likes of which the world had never seen before in television. For me personally, when I hear the intro to Game of Thrones, I think of Robb Stark being crowned the King of the North.
The King of the North!
I think of Tyrion firing that bolt into his father's chest. I think of Jaime learning to fight again. The song reminds me of the best of times I had with the show, and not necessarily how it ended. But let's talk about that ending for a moment. No other show had an impact on the world like Game of Thrones has, and the same can be said for the way the show finished. So much disappointment, anger, scorn, genuine hurt and pain, and sadness.
Wow. Wow.
No!
There it goes.
Why?
That's her whole character arc.
Oh, why?
Right?
Yeah,
Are
you serious?
She had won.
Yeah, what was the point of that?
Why did you just throw her entire, like, all her values away?
You done it up!
Season 8, and to a lesser extent Season 7 of Game of Thrones, had done what at some point seemed impossible. It made people hate Game of Thrones. Fans were pissed, and rightfully so. You can find video essay after video essay on YouTube as to why this ending is horrible, but that's not really what's important to our topic. All that really matters for now is that the show left the worst possible taste in people's mouths. To some, the intro may even be the only good part about entire episodes of the final season, and once it was all over, those few iconic notes went quiet. Then, August 21st, 2022, a new show in the Game of Thrones universe premieres. Set nearly 200 years before the original, House of the Dragon is a Game of Thrones prequel about a civil war within the Targaryen house. Years have passed since the ending of Game of Thrones, and to many, those wounds still have not healed. But that wouldn't stop the new show from coming out. And once again, the world tuned in and returned to the world of Westeros. This time, not to hear the Song of Fire and Ice, rather, now it is a time of fire and blood. And yet, this is still a world of Game of Thrones. A world we once loved. A world many longed to go back to, while others were still too cautious to be excited about returning to it. And we are reminded of this fact of where we are within the opening minutes of the show.
Harris called the Great Council to prevent a war being fought over his succession. For he knew the cold truth. The only thing that could tear down the House of the Dragon was itself.
Multiple times. House of the Dragon Episode 1 uses the main theme from the original show as a leitmotif, something familiar to listen to as we return for the first time in many years to Westeros. We hear the same familiar notes before we even see the intro proper. When the time comes though, Episode 1 chooses to go with a different intro, one more subtle than the previous, and more ominous. If the original intro was preparing you for an epic story, this one is letting you know we're in store for something more dark and looming. Something to represent the coming dark times for the House of the Dragon, to let the viewers know that there is a coming danger. And while we listen to the intro song, the only visual on screen is the symbol for the House Targaryen itself, letting us know the danger is coming from within. So, mission accomplished, right? We have a new intro that does the same thing as the previous of letting the viewer know what world they're in and what exactly they're in store for. Letting us know that this isn't Game of Thrones, it is its own thing despite the similarities. Well, not quite, because out comes Episode 2, and with one song, changes everything. Episode 2 using the same intro song as the original series was a bold choice by the creators, and one that I absolutely love. So many people out there are so scorned by the end of Game of Thrones, they've grown to resent the series and the franchise as a whole. With this being the attitude of so many, you might think that maybe the showrunners and the creators might want to distance themselves from the original wherever they can, as to avoid bringing up bad memories for all those who are left hurt by the ending. But by choosing to play the original song, the creators of the show are telling us that House of the Dragon is unashamedly Game of Thrones. It is not afraid to possibly anger or upset those who were hurt by the original show, because I believe the creators of House of the Dragon remember the best of times of Game of Thrones and how incredible of a time it was to be a fan of the series, and how they want to recapture that. It's a massive risk to use the same song over a new animation, but it's a choice that is loud, clear, and bold, proclaiming what once was good can be good again. It doesn't have to be something else, something it's not, or try to hide its roots. It can wear previous mistakes proudly and show that lessons have been learned. It doesn't have to pretend to not be Game of Thrones, because House of the Dragon is Game of Thrones, and that's a good thing.